that you read, the more things you'll know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to read. Reading has the power to open our eyes, open our hearts, and truly transform us. Bismillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the Muslim Bookshelf, Islam Channel's first ever book show. I'm your host, Naima B. Robert. Now, I'm an author, editor, book coach, but most importantly, I am a reader just like you. And that is why I am so excited to be bringing you this series, mashallah. Now, Jabir reported that the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, "Ask Allah for beneficial knowledge and seek refuge in Allah from knowledge without benefit." Now, life events can leave us confused, isolated, and in despair. Books can help us to navigate situations just like these. And that is why I am so privileged and honored to have our guest today, Farah Dualeh, who is the author of Taking Control, a Muslim Woman's Guide to Surviving Infertility.
I am Farah Dualeh. First and foremost, the slave of Allah, somebody who is grateful to be wherever Allah puts me at any given time. I am a wife and finally a mother after 15 years of waiting. I am an author, I work in the charity sector, and reluctantly, I'm a Londoner. I became an author because I felt like I had a burning message. I had a story that I wanted to share, a story that I felt like wasn't out there yet, not in the voice of a Muslim woman and not in the voice of someone like me. And this is the reason why I wrote my book, Taking Control, a Muslim Woman's Guide to Surviving Infertility, and it's how I became an author. My hobbies include nature. Surprisingly, today we're somewhere very naturey. I love walking in the forest, I love being water, I love going for long walks, I love hiking, and in recent times I love sitting on the ground in the forest with my son, just feeling nature's healing. My love of nature and my always running to nature has helped my journey with infertility. So when I was writing this book, prior to writing this book, and on my journey through infertility the last 15 years, I think one of my go-to has always been to connect with Allah's signs, be amongst nature, be in the greenery, be amongst water, and kind of have that time to quieten the noise and the fear and really kind of reconnect with what we're supposed to be doing at any given time. What drives me as an author is that need. The book that I wrote is truly needed in the community and I would say in society as a whole. And this is what drove me. This is what allowed me to overcome my fears. This is what made me think that it's something I had to do. Also, in addition, I think it was having really supportive people around. It was joining a coaching group. It was joining a writing program. And it was about having that support to help you fulfill something that you felt like you needed to do. For anyone that's wanting to write a book, I would say firstly understand your why. Why are you wanting to do this? Do you feel like you have a message to share? Do you just want to see if you're good at it? Is it something that's part of your bucket list? Understand your why. Secondly, I would say is get started. Don't wait to be perfect. You don't need a degree to be a writer. You just need to get started. See what your message is and just scribble away and see where that takes you.
How do you find the time to write your books?
How do I find the time to write my books? Previously, I was really blessed in the sense that it was during the lockdown. So the book, Taking Control, A Muslim Woman's Guide to Surviving Infertility, was written in 6 weeks. So the manuscript was written in 6 weeks because I had nothing else to do, frankly, during the lockdown. Now that I'm trying to write the second book, it is definitely going to take longer because life is busier. But what I do is whenever I have an idea, I just scribble it down, I jot it down, I try and create an image around it, and then I leave it, and then I'll come back to it at one point and put everything together. So I don't try and rush the process.
Assalamu alaikum, sis.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sister. It's lovely being here with you.
So grateful you could join us, mashallah, because your book touches on one of those life challenges that nobody ever talks about. But before we get there, please introduce yourself to our viewers. How do you introduce yourself nowadays?
Well, it changes all the time, I guess, like all of us.
Yes.
But yeah, my name is Farah Dualeh. I live in London with my husband. I am a published author, and my 9 to 5 is in management in the charity sector.
MashaAllah, alhamdulillah. So this book, Taking Control, when you're asked, so you've written a book, what's it about? How do you describe it?
Well, it's so interesting you said that, because you always go, because the minute you say the title, you expose a lot of yourself very quickly just through the title. So it's really interesting that you asked that question. But I usually will say the title fully, even though it's a bit long. And then I say it's a book that was very much needed for the community that really discusses infertility regarding Muslim women and Muslim couples.
Absolutely, absolutely. So give us a little bit of the background as to why you decided to write this book.
I always say, because we needed it, I needed it, we needed it. Even, you know, those of us that are blessed enough to have children will know somebody that is touched by this topic. We know it's an ever-increasing issue in terms of health around the world. It's one that we need to try and understand. It's one that we are ashamed of, do the blame game, don't understand how it relates to being a Muslim. And it's one that conjures up so many insecurities and confusion that we had to add something to the to the space.
And I've read the book, and guys, if you yourself are struggling with this issue, or you know anybody who is struggling with this issue, get this book and give it to them. It is probably one of, after your du'as, probably one of the best gifts you can give them, because it cuts through all of that. It cuts through the shame, the guilt. I love how kind and confident you come across in the book, and you don't sugarcoat anything. You're very honest, you're very real, but you're also kind, and you encourage the people who are on that journey trying to conceive, TTC it's called.
Yeah, that's it, you're learning.
Exactly, to be kind to themselves. But we're going to jump into that, inshallah. We're going to jump in more. So I want us to go back, because firstly, before I dive in with my questions, would you like to share with us a little bit from the introduction or from the end?
Yeah, I'd love to.
I love to hear authors reading their own
I
work.
love it. There's actually a bit that links with what you just said now, that balancing of being brave, but being kind, and knowing that this is a difficult journey. So I'll read a little bit from that. And this is chapter 5, and it's called The Most Difficult Question. So the first paragraph of that chapter starts with, "This book is intended to be a resource for you to tap into when you need it. It's also meant to challenge and encourage you, and for you to consider a different way of experiencing infertility. It pushes you to understand and hopefully accept the truth that the hardship you find yourself immersed in is not the end of your life. While this book encourages you to adopt a different mindset, it does so with the understanding that this will require a lot of bravery from you."
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm sure the audience can hear, the tone of the book. And I think it will be really refreshing for so many people who struggle in silence with this.
That's it.
And you shared some very, very personal aspects of your journey. And when I was reading the book, one of the aspects that touched me the most was actually your early experience of loss. Would you like to share a little bit of that with our viewers?
Yes. What Naima is referring to, if you haven't read the book at the start, is that I lost my mother when I was 6 years old, and I lost her in a way where I had the opportunity to say goodbye, but being 6 years old and not understanding what that entails, I didn't use the opportunity, and then I lived for many years with the guilt of just wishing that I'd had the opportunity to be there for my mum towards the end. And then losing my mum at such a young age, and then struggling to become a mum has been one of great challenge.
I really appreciated the way that you shared that. It's a big thing. And also, as you said, how it impacted your approach to family and what you wanted to create. And then how that journey of trying to conceive was impacted by that. And I think everybody does bring their own personal story, their own personal history to this journey. By the way, for viewers, TTC Farah, what does TTC stand
to
for?
conceive.
All right.
So once you get into this community, you know, this community of trying to conceive, you know, like anything else, you learn all the abbreviations. So it's trying
the
to
lingo.
conceive. Yeah, the lingo, trying to conceive. Yeah.
Okay, mashallah. And I like that you mentioned community, because I remember you mentioned at the beginning of the book trying to get support online, which alhamdulillah we have so much access to now. If you want to get, you know, information, support groups, you will find groups online.
Yes.
But you talk in the book about feeling alienated in those early days from some of the conversations within the kind of TTC community. Tell me a little bit about that, because I'm sure the viewers will be interested and they may have experienced this themselves as well.
Yeah, most likely they've experienced it, even if they're going through it now and they're in the early days of trying to conceive, and maybe they're struggling and they've got questions, they might be going through it. But especially if you were trying to conceive 10, 15, 20 years ago, because there was really not much of the Muslim voice available, and the voices that were available in the trying to conceive world it's actually a very active community. So there are a lot of women wanting to share their stories, share experiences, get support. Get support. So at first, when you're trying to navigate what's going on and you're trying to find answers and you're trying to find people that understand, you think, I found my tribe. These are the same questions I have. This is what I wanted to know. And it is really helpful in some aspects. So for example, if somebody's thinking about IVF and you're trying to consider different clinics, say in London, you will find that information in those groups, which is fantastic. But then quite quickly I realized, there's something missing. So there was two elements of it that I saw very quickly. One was the approach. It's the inevitable why me question. It's the anger that people feel towards the world, God, all these kind of things. And for me, quite quickly as a Muslim, and especially a Muslim that is trying to have tawakkul, a Muslim that ultimately trusts their creator, this concept of, but why me? I never smoked. Why is it happening to me?
Where does the why me come from?
I think it's a psychological phenomenon, right? Because I feel like Muslims are not safe from it. We've all come across, we may have been there ourselves in some situations where something happens and it's like, but why me? But then the question is always, but why not? Like, who else would it be?
Why should somebody else get that test?
Because if you had a question of why does this happen ever, fair enough, right? That's a different debate. But if you're just saying infertility happens to people, or cancer, or whatever, you know, these things happen to people, but why me? It always just we always have to ask ourselves, but why not? And just saying, but I didn't smoke, so therefore I deserve to get pregnant straight away, doesn't quite make sense when we really understand the way the world works and the way God has intended things to be, if that makes sense. Like He's the all-wise, we're not, subhanAllah. So that was one. One was this anger that a lot of people showed. And like I said, I know there are Muslims who also feel that. And why me is major, so I don't want anyone to feel really guilty. It's just something to consider and to kind of understand what is our relationship on this earth and what is our relationship with God, and kind of coming to grips with that. So being in that world didn't make sense for me in that sense, because I just didn't get it. Then the other aspect is the answers. What are the solutions to overcoming this? What treatments are available? What kind of family setups can you have? What is available to you?
What's possible?
What's possible? And as a Muslim couple and a Muslim woman, there are many things possible. There are so many things that sometimes we think is haram when they're not.
That's good for people to know.
There's loads of, and the book deals with that. So at the end, there's your family and your options. All of that is covered in the book. So I hope people take the time to read it.
It absolutely is covered. It covers every single angle is covered.
We've covered it. But so one of the things where when people start thinking about treatment options and they start talking about sperm donor, egg donor, surrogacy, these things which are very common, thanks to science.
In that community, in that community,
and what's available around the world today, very common. Surrogacy, we've all heard of it. We all may have seen somebody, even on TV or something. But as Muslims, they're not always available to us. So again, that's another space that I felt like, okay, I need, there's something missing. And we need to provide that.
This might not be the right place for me.
Take what you can, take what's good like anything else. But there was major gaps that just didn't allow for our voice to be seen in that space.
I think, mashallah, one of the things that I really did enjoy about this book and this look at the TTC journey is the bedrock of tawakkul and our purpose and your value as a believing woman, as a believer, as a believing man, a believing woman, you know, and the validity of that. And also the context of this test, right? When you contextualize, difficulty with conceiving as one of Allah's tests,
Yes,
it really does change. It changes the game, subhanAllah.
The game.
So you mentioned about losing your mum and Allah yarhamha, and then having your, getting married and looking forward to having your own family.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that early stage where I'm assuming that you just thought it's going to be easy like everybody else. You mentioned in the book about this kind of shock and almost disbelief that, like, why is it taking so long? Tell us a little bit about that, those early years.
Yeah, so exactly. So when we decided, inshallah, let's try and have a baby, you think it's going to happen very quickly. Yeah. Again, that's what they drummed into us at school.
Oh, yes, you mentioned that.
It was drummed into us and it really did work. But then when it doesn't quite work out, you're like, oh, what's happening? So, yeah, we tried to have a baby. We thought it would happen. And in the first few months, nothing's happening. And it wasn't fear or anything yet. It was just a case of, what do you mean? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, where's the pregnancy?
Don't get it.
I don't
What's
get
happening?
it. What's happening? And it was literally just like, what's happening? I don't get it. Thankfully, we were so busy that I didn't spend every minute thinking about it, as can happen with people.
Yes.
And I always tell people that I'm actually really grateful from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I probably only ever have taken about 10 pregnancy tests in the span of about 15 years of trying to conceive.
Wow.
People in the TCC world know that they might take 10 a day, 10 a week, because you're just so consumed by this that the slightest delay, the slightest inclination that you might be, the slightest feeling that you are, you take a test.
And
then you think that might be wrong, so you take another one. So I tried to avoid all of that, and we were quite busy, and we did whatever we needed to do. But it was one of just pure confusion and just what's happening, and hence that's when I find myself researching and then finding myself in those communities that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And then I went to the GP and all of that stuff.
Yeah, subhanAllah. I mean, obviously, you mentioned that your TTC journey has been 15 years long.
Yes.
So, and I know from the book, because you share this, the different stages of that journey, right? So the first, you were like, just confused, like, what is happening?
But just not worrying.
Right, not worrying. And then you went to the doctor, and the doctor said you guys are fine.
Totally
like,
fine.
couldn't see any issue. So then what happens after that then?
Right. It's very interesting, actually. So we were quite young. We were considered very healthy. All of the tests came back really good.
Yeah.
And so they kept saying to us, because I went back a couple of times, and they said to us, all right, we'll put you on the waiting list for IVF. Because I was like, after the test came back normal, it's year 2 now. I was like, I started to do my own research, because I'm one of those people that are just very proactive. So I started to research what's available and things like that. Researched about IVF and asked to be referred for it. And they were like, there's no need, you're fine. Like, I assure you, you are fine.
Yeah.
But it takes a while anyway, so let's put you on the list. What actually happened in the end is that we ended up doing 4 rounds of IVF over a long period of time, because, and I will actually say that we ended up doing so many rounds of IVF with very little luck, no pregnancies, no embryos.
No
embryos.
So just for the people who didn't pay attention in biology, no embryos means no fertilization.
No fertilization. So for those who don't know IVF, because I think again that's a word that we don't use, and we use, but we don't
use
know what
IVF.
it is.
Trust me when I say I did not know what IVF really was until I read this book.
Right. So IVF, just briefly, is that they would bring, so for the female, usually, you're having a lot of injections, hormones and things.
And what's all that for?
To stimulate egg growth.
Right.
So that instead of the natural cycle of having maybe 1 egg released a month, you would have loads in a cycle.
Really?
Yeah, because they pump a lot of medicine into you, treatments into you, so that you have more eggs and they get the best quality eggs.
I see.
And then they don't do anything with the men, unless there's a reason, but there's very little.
If they've tested the sperm that it's considered,
even
do
if
they
it's
do that?
Abnormal, there's for sperm, what they would do is that they would inject it into an egg.
Rather
for
than
example,
just
if
putting
there's
it in a
mobility,
dish.
there's not like injections and stuff like that associated with for the male counterpart. So what they do is, let's just assume you got good sperm, good egg. They bring them together in a little dish, and then they come together. They essentially come together. ICSI, which is also mentioned in the book, which is also had, is a step above that. Instead of putting them both in a little dish and waiting for nature to take its course, they will actually inject sperm into the egg. Wow. So it's almost impossible for it not to be fertilized. It should, in theory, fertilize, unless there's a major issue. Yeah. And again, remember, medically, there is no major issue. We're unexplained. And so we have all these eggs, we have all of these opportunities for things to fertilize, and nothing was happening. And they were just gobsmacked. And they just, and the thing is, there's a lot of people, at least 10% of the trying to conceive community around the world will be in the unexplained category.
Right.
And it's a really tough group to be in, I think, because at least when you know what's wrong, you can try to fix something.
Yes.
If it's, but we can't see what the issue is, then it's very hard. So then they just test and they try different. Next round, they try something else. And then the round after that, they try something else.
Yeah.
And you do all your stuff where you stop caffeine and all of this stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, so in the end, 4 rounds. We did 3 rounds, took a major gap. Like 4 years or something.
Yes, you did. Yes.
I had to do it because I think, and I want women to know that you can.
Yeah.
Because I think for anybody who's gone through IVF, it's a harrowing experience.
This is something that, like I said, I did not expect. I had no idea. When you hear people talking about IVF, they might mention the cost.
Yes.
Right? But nothing, I've never heard anything else. And so when I read the book and I saw sort of almost how traumatic it was.
Very
because,
traumatic.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about that.
Very traumatic. So just a brief snapshot is that once you start the process, you will have a truckload of medicine delivered to your house, which you put in the fridge and some in your cupboard or whatever.
Right.
You are injecting sometimes up to 2 times a day, depending on the cycle and the protocol that you're on. Yeah, physically injecting. And then so much is happening with your body.
There's the hormones, right?
Hormones are just racing everywhere. So you are emotionally tired. You are physically in pain from the injections, bloating, all of the other things, right? And different women are different as well, because if you already have, say, mental health issues, these things can trigger something. So it's really, really challenging in itself, but that's fine. Then you get to towards the end, which for a female, they put you to sleep.
Oh.
Then they retrieve all of those eggs that have been growing. Then you wake up hours later and your body, it's not like a scientific thing, it's not a medical thing, but for me, I always say, I think your body thinks you've given birth.
Wow.
Because you wake up, you don't know where you are. They have to wait for you to see if you're able to use the toilet and stuff on your own.
Oh my gosh.
And you just start crying. Like the first time that I
It's
woke
the hormones,
up, it's the hormones.
It's the hormones.
I was uncontrollably crying the first time, and you don't know why, and you feel cold, and it's just horrible.
Right.
Then you go home, and the next day they find out if there's been any fertilization.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
If there is no fertilization, then that's the end of that round. If there is, which majority of the people, there usually will be some sort of fertilization, you come back, and then they will put the embryos back. It's called implant.
Yeah.
And then you wait for another further 2 weeks to see if
they catch.
if they're attached, and then there's a pregnancy. Or in those 2 weeks for most people is when the failure of IVF happens, meaning that they've implanted an embryo but it didn't stick. That's actually the common way of failure. For us, it's like even a step before that, where there's no embryos to even work with. Yeah. So to go from you're totally fine to that is a lot to get your head around.
It is. It is. Oh, it is. May Allah make it easy. You mention in the book, quite early on actually, this phrase that I quoted, choosing happiness over motherhood. What do you mean by that?
I had to. And I'm glad I did.
What does that mean?
It means that I had to quickly analyse what's going on and decide how I was going to approach it. Because I really honestly do believe that, because we hear these things all the time, that things are a choice. You can choose your perspective. You can choose how you navigate through something. Yeah. I honestly, in the core of my being, believe that that's the case. It doesn't matter what happens to you in life. The way we choose to understand it, the way we choose to operate in it is actually the thing. That's what matters. That's where the success or any sort of failure really lies, not the test in itself. So for me, I had to sit down and say, what's going on? And for us as a couple, what's going on? Yeah. And then for me, it was like that question, the difficult question I was talking about. Okay, so now we're struggling to conceive.
Okay, but hold on, before we get... You mentioned the difficult question earlier.
Yes.
But what is the difficult question?
Yep. So the difficult question kind of links from the one we've just talked about is, what if I never have a biological child? Because there's two things. There's trauma in trying to conceive and it taking a couple of years and actually having a baby. Yeah. Or having lots of miscarriages and then finally having a baby. Or having IVF and then finally having a baby. And never having a biological child. Yes. They're all traumatic. They're all a journey and they're all a struggle, but this one's very different. Yes. And when you're out here at the start, you don't know where you're going to end up. You don't know which way it's going to go. You don't. And so for me, at the very start, and I know a lot of women say, I refuse to go there, at the early stages, I had to say, what if we never have it? Even for me, what if I never, because you never know what's going to happen in your marriage and things like that, but I had to say, me as an individual, what if I never carry a child? And I had to say, I'm okay with that. I had to say, I hope I have one. I hope that, you know, whatever, but I don't know what Allah's plan is for me, so I choose me over this.
I choose to be okay.
I choose to be okay.
Allah
I choose
decrees.
happiness. I choose to accept, and I choose to trust. And therefore happiness, and not just acceptance like you're just surviving, but like true happiness, loving life, had to be my choice. And then when children, if and when children came, that's a bonus. I had to choose that from the get-go, and that's a mindset. I'm sure for many viewers out there, you know, hope you guys will tell us, you know, on social media, but I'm sure that's confronting for some women to hear. What do you mean happy without a child? What do you mean happy without having a baby? What do you mean? What is, you know, because of our ideas about what marriage and motherhood mean for ourselves as individuals and our lives, right? Can you be happy never having had a child? I think people do really ask themselves, like, can you be happy? You're just faking it. That's it. And that's because that's what it is. That's it. The answer for a lot of people is no. The answer is, for a lot of them, no, I can't. I think I mentioned in the book that I said, because I did a little bit of fertility coaching at the, you know, halfway through the journey. And somebody said to me, death. When I asked them that question in coaching, they said death. It means death. Like, I might as well be dead.
No,
honestly, hand on heart, it was like, it does not matter. Like, the rest of it doesn't matter.
There's nothing else.
There's nothing else.
This is the only thing.
And if I don't ever have that, then it's death.
That's deep.
That's deep.
That's very,
and I just thought, I
deep.
can't do. I don't want my life to be death. Do you know? I can't. So it's very confronting, but it's very needed.
I think I really agree. I agree with you. I really think it is, because I just, you know, when I'm hearing you speaking and as I was reading the book, we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran that some He gives children and some He leaves barren. And we know from the stories of the prophets, we know from history, we know from our own families, there are some women and some men who will never have, as you said, a biological child. But to have, I guess what's coming up for me is to tell yourself a story that if I am never able to conceive, my life is not worth living. That's a tough story.
Because that's what it is. You're telling yourself a story, and you choose the story. That's the whole point of this book. Well, part of it is exactly that. Is can you really choose to say, without children, I don't exist? And then what does that mean for the afterlife? You know, what is it? Because remember, this is all a test, and we need to try and pass these tests. So it really does. I really do encourage people to see this for what it is. It's not death. It's not the end of the world. People have been tested far greater. We're not belittling this, but you can survive it. And life can be beautiful. And there are choices.
What I found really useful in the book was this perspective. It is that shifting of perspective to me having a baby is the most important thing. It is the be-all, end-all. It is the measure of my marriage.
That's it.
It is the foundation of my family. Shifting that perspective when there is a chance that Allah may not have willed this for you. How did you and your husband come to an understanding about what your life looked like with the answer to that most difficult question?
A lot of talking, a lot of crying, a lot of communication. We had to make sure that we're on the same page, because you may not be, and that's okay.
And you talk about that in the book. You're very honest and open about that, because you're right. It is something that, as a couple, there needs to be a genuine consensus. There's no force or like guilting someone or... Anyway, carry on, please.
That's it. That's exactly it. So you have... And sometimes that means that you then have the same conversations again and again and again.
Just to see, are we still on the same page?
Are we still on the same page? Or is what you said last time aligning with what you're saying this time? Or do you know, really just testing each other and pushing each other and encouraging each other to be brave enough to share, like, the worries, the concerns, if you want to end the marriage, like, all these conversations have to be had.
You've just said something that I'm sure is going to just trigger people right now. What do you mean, end the marriage?
Well, no, actually, I feel like that's the go-to. I think a lot of people are like, if it's not working, and we know societally females are generally, this is like blamed for this. We know scientifically that's not the truth,
right?
But at a societal level, all societies, and so for it, I think the consensus sometimes is very much, if she's not having a child, why are you still with her? There's definitely that.
There's definitely that. Yeah. But between a couple, I don't know.
Yeah, between a couple, it's different.
They're not going to necessarily speak to each other like that. But that is something that you mention at the end as something to have a genuine conversation about.
Genuinely.
You talk about a couple who were together and couldn't have a child, and then they agreed to split, and then go on.
Yeah, no, exactly. So and thank you for highlighting that, because there's a difference between the couple and the society. And so for a couple, it could be that one of them doesn't even want to try to conceive anymore because it's just been too much, right? And the other one doesn't want to stop.
Right.
It could be that we've been told, that one of them has been told that they can never have a child, or they can never have a child together, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And one might want a child more than the other as well, male or female, right?
True.
And so all of these things means that there are times and there are couples where divorce is the best option for them. As well as all the other options that I mentioned in the thing. So it's all about just having, even for us to take a massive break. I think I was 31, he was 33 when we decided to have a 4 or 5 year break. And so that had to be something that we understood why we're doing it, because those years matter. And so, whatever the options, whatever the obstacles, it has to be, you really have to be aligned and in tune with what you're saying. And then you have to work at your marriage to be as happy and healthy as possible away from this. So that you know you're fighting for something that actually that you care about, that you have joy
100%. And I that part, I actually really enjoyed that part of the book where you talk about making your marriage a priority, making it your priority. Because I'm sure that there are many marriages that fall apart on a TTC journey because of all the stress. How do you make your marriage a priority?
By realizing the gift that it is. And really nurturing it, and really understanding that if we don't have children, and without children, who are we, and what is this, and what can we get out of it? And then when you, again, like we said with everything, when you consciously decide this is actually the priority for us, then that's when you come together to just make it amazing. Because before that, if marriage was just a means to get children, that's different. And
you're not staying together.
That's it. That's not, because what's the point?
No.
This was a means, and the means are not working. I get it. But if you were like, no, I want
it's not giving.
It's not working. It's not giving. This is not what I get it.
It's not what I signed up for.
It's not what I signed up for. But if you went in with the intention of having a good marriage and wanting children,
and you genuinely love that person,
that's it.
In spite of and regardless. And we know that this does happen. We know that type of love does exist.
Of course.
And for me, it's not a case of shaming this way or that way. And I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy in the book, is that there is no shame.
There is no shame
on anyone for any decision that they make. Now, while we are looking to wrap up, I want you to talk about this quote that I took from the book. Where you address the woman, the couple on the TTC journey, and you say, you deserve a guilt-free life. Talk to that.
Because the number of people that are trying to conceive, struggling to conceive, and either on an individual level or a couple, they are just living a life filled with guilt is too many. And the guilt comes from different things. So it comes from, for women, just automatically, oh, why am I not able to carry a child? Maybe nothing to do with her, but just this automatic thing of why can I not have a child? And then if you know that you're the issue, not the issue, but like there's a medical condition with that person, then you feel like the issue. That's why I said, you know, you feel like the problem. So there's a guilt there. Then you feel like you're guilty from stopping them becoming a parent. Even you can come to terms with maybe not being a parent, but now you feel like you're stopping somebody else. Then you feel guilty for your family and the grandparents. Then you feel guilty with every little action you've ever done. I think I mentioned that in the book, where it's like, oh, I had too much coffee, for example, like the caffeine, or my diet is wrong, or I'm slightly overweight, or you know, you just start to blame yourself, and then you just are overwhelmed with guilt because you feel like the things that you're doing are making the situation worse. Number one, you feel like that you were put on earth to have a child.
Right.
Now that you can't have a child, why are you here? So
Yeah.
you just feel,
Yes.
your mere existence.
Why are you
starts to feel
taking up
guilty.
space right
That's
now?
it.
Okay.
Just, which
So
is
why do
insane,
you say
right?
that every woman or man deserve a guilt-free life?
It's because it's not your fault. I don't actually care what you think you've done. Like, even for non-Muslims, like, I don't care what you think you've done. This is a test from the Creator, because we know, like we were saying before, the why me thing, things don't make sense sometimes.
Yes.
Right? There are people who've done a million different things that in theory means they shouldn't be able to have children, but they conceive like that.
Yes.
So in the same token, you deserve to recognize that this is not from you, but from Him.
It's not in your hands.
It's not in your hands. It never was in your hands. You just thought it was because you had your own plans. And you forgot you were not the planner. And now you're angry because your hands didn't work out when it was nothing to do with you to begin with. So you deserve it. Really, I always say there's no place for guilt in trying to conceive. This is such a hard journey. This is something that you have to kind of accept, like, happening to you and for you quite often. So there is to be wasting your energy and your time and your du'as and all of these things with guilt. That's just something that you can just get rid of right now. All the other things are a struggle, right? Because marriage, you have to keep working at society issues. This is one that you can just say, oh, yeah, this doesn't make sense.
I'm not
I
carrying
dropped that.
Yeah, I love it. Listen, Sister Farah, thank you so much for writing this book. And I pray that everybody who needs to hear this message gets to hear it. Where can people connect with you?
With me, probably Instagram is probably the best place. So it's Farah Dualeh 1. But again, Google, your email comes up, contact, email and things like that comes up via Google. And in terms of the book, you can get it anywhere, Amazon and anywhere books are sold. Fantastic. But it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. As you can see, I love this topic. Yes. and I want as many people as possible to hear about this message and to maybe start thinking about the perspective shift that we were talking about. So I am so grateful to you and for Islam Channel for allowing this opportunity.
Alhamdulillah. I'm excited to see the impact that you are able to have through this book. And I pray that it finds itself onto Muslim bookshelves that need this everywhere in the world. Ya Rab, make it happen. Jazakallahu khairan, sis.
Wa iyak. Jazakallah khair.
Books to instill understanding and hope. Reclaim Your Heart by Yasmin Mugahed. Don't Be Sad by Dr. Aid Al-Qarni. Dua, The Weapon of the Believer by Yasir Qadi.